Hi, good morning. Welcome or welcome back. I'm super excited today because it's book shopping day and I'm planning to visit one of my favorite bookstores here in Beijing. I don't have a specific wish list today, so I'm just going to browse and see what catches my eyes. And if I end up buying anything, I'll do a book haul when I come back. And I've also got a few online purchases I want to share, so I'm going to include those as well. But before I head out, I just want to quickly share some of the books that I've been reading recently. First, I got these two short story collections by Dino Buzzati, Catastrophe and Other Stories, and The Bewitched Bourgeois, 50 Stories. I did a video on his novel, The Totter Step, and these two are actually some of her much shorter stories. There is a bit of overlap between these two, so if you ask me to pick one, I'd probably go with this one. But honestly, I think they are both worth having. One story that really stuck with me is The Seven Floors. It's about a man who checks into a sanatorium for a very mild illness. The building has 7 floors with patients arranged by how sick they are. Like the higher the floor, the healthier the patients. And the first floor is only for those who are dying. And he starts on the 7th floor, but then he gets asked to temporarily move down a level to make room for a woman and her 2 kids. And he's promised he'll be back very soon. But things just get out of control, and for some very vague medical or bureaucratic reasons, he just keeps getting moved lower and lower until he ends up dying on the 1st floor. And another story that really freaked me out is The Time Machine. It's about a city that slows time to double people's lifespans. That sounds really exciting, right? But when the system malfunctions, time flips and everyone just ages centuries in seconds. So they're literally turning to dust. And there are so many other weird, haunting, and absurd stories in these collections. So if you're into that kind of fiction, I definitely think they are worth checking out. I also read A Pale View of Hills by Kazuo Ishiguro because I heard it's being adapted into a film, and I want to read the book first before seeing the movie. So this is Ishiguro's debut novel, and I really loved it. The story follows Asuko, who is a middle-aged Japanese woman living in England, as she reflects on her past in post-war Nagasaki. And we know right from the beginning that her older daughter, Keiko, has died by suicide. But instead of, talking directly about her grief, Itsuku starts telling us about a woman she once knew named Sachiko and her daughter Mariko. So it's a story about memory and how memory can be unreliable, especially when we are trying to protect ourselves from something really painful. And Itsuku seems to be hiding the truth behind the stories of a friend. Like, that's what people often do, right? And the truth can be quite unsettling and even chilling. And I feel there are so many unanswered questions in this book, and it's very open to interpretations. So I'm really curious to see how they adapted it into a film, because it's really less about what's told than what's left unspoken. The next book I want to share is Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. I actually got a Chinese translated version from the publisher. So I bought this English version as well. I'm still in the middle of it. I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm not usually into Westerns, but there's this quote on the first page that is from USA Today. If you read only one Western novel in your life, read Lonesome Dove. The book follows 2 retired Texas Rangers, Augustus McCrae and Woodrow Call, as they lead a cattle drive from Texas to Montana. McMurtry actually mentioned in his memoir that he was inspired by Don Quixote, with Gus as the romantic adventurer like Don Quixote, and Call as the pragmatic realist like Sancho Panza. But it's not just about the two of them, because there's a whole cast of characters who join them on this journey. And the book uses a third-person omniscient point of view, so you really get to see into the minds of different characters. So far, the part that impressed me most is the death of this Irish boy, Sean O'Brien. He's bitten by moccasins when crossing a river, and they have no choice but to bury him very quickly and keep moving. And maybe I can share a little quote, and this is Gus speaking. "Dust to dust," he said. "Let the rest of us go on to Montana." He's right, Carl thought. The best thing to do with a death was to move on from it. One by one, the cowboys mounted and went off to the herd, many of them taking a quick last look at the muddy grave under the tree. I mean, this is like a stark reminder of the uncertainty of life and death and how people choose to cope with it. And just like Gus says, it doesn't matter where you die, it matters where you live. And there's honestly so much more I'd like to share about this book, but I think I'll save that for another video after I finish it. And finally, I've been reading two short story collections by Argentine writer Mariana Enriquez on the dangers of smoking in bed and things we lost in the fire. A friend recommended her work, and the very first story I read just completely shocked me. It's the opening piece in Dangers of Smoking in Bed. It's about a woman who discovers some bones in her grandmother's house, which are said to belong to the grandmother's stillborn sister. And after her grandmother dies and the house is sold, the baby just starts appearing, is half rotted, and it begins following the narrator everywhere. It's incredibly eerie, and her stories are full of such kind of, supernatural, gothic, and disturbing elements. And to be honest, some of her descriptions kind of make me uncomfortable, but she's really not just trying to scare the readers. She's using horror as a metaphor for real-life pain and suffering. Argentina was under military dictatorship from the late 1970s to the early 1980s, and during this period, over 30,000 people were disappeared. They were kidnapped, tortured, and killed, and the babies born in captivity were taken away and given to military couples. And to this day, many of those children, now adults, still don't know who their biological parents were. And Enriquez grew up during this time, and a lot of her work draws on the trauma of that era. And she once said, reality is not only the facts, but also how it feels. And of all the stories that I've read so far, I finished Dangers of Smoking in Bed, and I read the first 4 stories in Things We Lost in Fire. My favorite might be The Missing Children. It's in The Dangers of Smoking Bed. In this story, we see long-lost kids begin to return. But the thing is, they look exactly as they did the day they vanished, as if no time has passed. Then people think of the relocation of cemeteries in 18th century Paris, when human remains were exhumed and transferred because the graveyard had been overcrowded. So I think I'll finish Things We Lost in the Fire soon. And I've already bought 2 more of her books, and I'll share them after I get back. So without further ado, let's go book shopping. The bookstore is right in the heart of the city, so hopefully the streets are not too crowded.
Sometimes love is a dancer in the dark, spinning, laughing, twirling through the back door of your heart. And every time I think of you, well, something happens in my mind.
I am back, and it's been a pretty fruitful day. I ended up buying 4 books. First, I got The Wall by Marlen Haushofer. A woman takes a holiday in the Austrian mountains, spending a few days with her cousin and his wife in their hunting lodge. When the couple fails to return from a walk, the woman sets off to look for them, but the journey reaches a sinister and inexplicable dead end. She discovers only a transparent wall behind which there seemed to be no life. Trapped alone behind the mysterious wall, she begins the arduous work of survival. This is at once a simple account of potatoes and beans, of hoping for a calf, of counting matches, of forgetting the taste of sugar and the use of one's name, and simultaneously a disturbing dissection of the place of human beings in the natural world. Wow. I'm really curious to see how it all plays out, like how she's going to survive and what this isolation means to her. And also this idea of a transparent wall kind of reminds me of Under the Dome. But here is of course just this one woman who is completely alone that is trapped in this behind this wall. I have a feeling I'm really gonna like this one, but we'll see. The next one I got is The Sandcastle by Iris Murdoch. I bought this one 100% because of the cover. It's just so gorgeous, and I feel like I had to own it. I've never read Iris Murdoch before. I know she won the Booker Prize for The Sea, but I didn't really see that one at the store, so I think I'll start with The Sandcastle, and if I like it, I'll probably explore more of her work. Okay, the next one. Okay, this one is El Ingenioso Hidalgo y Poeta, Federico García Lorca, Asciende a los Infiernos by Carlos Rojas. I'm really not sure about the Spanish, correct me if I'm wrong. This is actually a Chinese version, and the title in Chinese has been shortened a little bit into Federico García Lorca Ascends to Hell. I bought this one also because of the cover, but also because I'm really intrigued by the idea of a novel about Lorca, because I read some of his poems and I loved them, although I don't always fully understand them. Lorca was assassinated during the Spanish Civil War. I'm guessing this book is about the world after his death, and the title really caught my attention, like why ascends to hell instead of descends to hell or ascends to heaven. I'm curious to see what the author is trying to say with that. And here is a line that says, "The hell is like a spiral corridor. Along this corridor, each of the dead has a private theater behind a high curtain, and on stage, his memories and dreams are playing out." So it seems like after death, Lorca is watching the scenes from his life unfold like a drama. I actually read a few pages at the bookstore, and it seems like it might be a bit challenging to understand, but I'll definitely give it a try. Death in Midsummer by Yukio Mishima. I've only read his The Temple of the Golden Pavilion before, and I read it in Chinese, and I loved it so much. Like, it is so beautifully written and translated. I mean, the language is beautiful, although the theme is really dark and haunting. So this time I bought this. This is a short story collection, I think. It has 9 short stories, and I think it might be a good summer read. So these are the 4 books I picked up at the bookstore, but I also wanted to share a few books that I recently bought online. I got Our Share of Night and A Sunny Place for Shady People by Mariana Enriquez. You know, I loved her Smoking in Bed, The Dangers of Smoking in Bed, and Things We Lost in the Fire. So I really want to read more of her work. This one is like a short story collection, and this one is a full-length novel, and it's really much thicker than I expected. His father could find what was lost. His father knew when someone was going to die. His father had talked to him about the dead who rode in on the wind. The dead travel fast. Gaspar is 6 years old when the otter first come for him. For years, they have exploited his father's ability to commune with the dead and the demonic, presiding over macabre rituals where the unwanted and the disappeared are tortured and executed, sacrificed to the darkness. Now they want a successor, and their sights are trained on Gaspar. So this is a story about mediums, or like the people who can communicate with the dead. It sounds incredibly eerie. I'm both excited and a little scared to see where it goes. I also bought Snowy Day and Other Stories by Chang-Dong. I haven't read much Korean literature, but I came across his story, The Leper, in The New Yorker. It really touched me, and I also love his film, Burning, so I'm eager to read more of his writing. And the next book is Orbital by Samantha Harvey. This won the Booker Prize last year, and I've seen so many people recommending it. What really sparked my interest was hearing it discussed on the New York Times Book Review podcast like a few months ago. They mentioned that it's written in a kind of stream of consciousness style, and even compared it to Mrs. Dalloway. So I'm really curious to see what it's like. And finally, I bought Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. I've wanted to read it ever since I saw Dua Lipa's interview with Min Jin Lee, where I learned that her father is from North Korea and her mother is from South Korea. She was born in Seoul, but then the family immigrated to the United States. And I think this diaspora experience definitely has had a huge impact on her writing. She explores themes like immigration, colonialism, discrimination, and of course, female agency, like how a woman navigates and asserts control over her own life, like in a society full of restrictions and taboos. So I'm really eager to dive into this one as well. So these are all the books that I wanted to share today. If you've read any of these, let me know what you thought and maybe which one you think I should start with. But of course, I first finished the books that I'm in the middle of, and hopefully I can get to these very soon. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.